broadcast in Enews24. We say to you guys everything will happen in Enews24. This is Dennis Kayenge, and I'm receiving for you Scott. Scott been a friend of mine for a long time. He's an Aussie. We call Aussie native of this country that we call Australia. So today we receive Scott, and he will talk about natural birds. It means the birds that belong to Australia. You know, we are in a big country, like you guys say always when I go to UK, to Canada, say, you guys are in prison, a bit of big island. Look, this is a beautiful land that we call Australia. Good morning, Scott.
Well, good afternoon, Dennis.
I know. It's already past 3. Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for coming always in our program, Enews24. We all value what you've done for too far from the past, working for the community. And today we receive you in a program that Enews24 that you know. We'll be talking about the native bird. It will be 1 and 2 part of this program. So tell me what you know so far about our listener will understand why are you interested in nature, like environment. Why?
Because nature as we see the trees and the birds were here before we were. And I have an interest in it because it's all part of the life cycle from start to finish. We don't know when it started, and we don't know when we're going to finish. There is so much beauty in nature. It's incredible. To start with some native birds of Australia. Yes.
Yeah.
Just
yeah.
Just the native birds of Australia. Like, how big or how small would you like to? We'll start with the small ones. Some of the native birds of Australia are very what's the word I'm looking for? They're very resilient to the climate of Australia. They've evolved to flourish in the climate and the environment of Australia because it's very harsh.
Yeah, when you say the climate is very harsh, you have to maybe explain to other people that will listen this from far. How is the Australian climate? How would that look like?
Well, the Australian climate, we have drought, we have floods. You know, there can be 7 years of drought, and then you've got a couple of years of devastating rain, where everything will just flood.
Yeah, because today we'll focus more on birds. So you know a bit because you didn't come in this program just because you wanted to come, because we invite you and we almost force your hand to come in here because you've been talking about, you know a lot of history about this nature, Australian nature. I will really appreciate that we want to understand.
Ask me a specific question about what you'd like to know.
Oh, the birds. What is the first bird that you can explain? Where are they? Because you told me that the bird migrate from a point to another point. What is the really native bird? And where those birds comes from?
There are so many birds that are native to Australia. Well, let's if you want to go right back, we've got to speak about when, as we know, there are so many continents on the earth now, and there was a time when all the continents were joined together, Gondwanaland, and as those continents separated from one big piece of land, the birds could fly from one spot to another across the small oceans and across the short distances as the continents were separating. They could fly. But now, as the continents lie as they do now, and with tectonic plate shift, It's only the larger birds and some of the smaller birds, but you'll see like the geese flying south for winter and flying north for winter and flying south. Depends on where you are on the equator, but they'll fly to the warmer climate for the winter. Now, some of the native birds in Australia are here because of that tectonic plate shift, the continental drift. Australia is moving on its continental plate 1.5 inches north per year at this moment in time. As the Earth continues to evolve, because it is a living entity, it's not just a solid rock, it's got a floating surface, and that surface continues to move. The native birds, as they don't fly as far as some of these intercontinental birds, if you look at birds like the kingfisher species, the kingfisher species is a beautiful, like the kookaburra, is a beautiful bird.
They're native too, yeah?
Yes, they are native to Australia, but you can go to other continents and see, not so much the kookaburra, but the kingfisher species, where they've got that certain shaped beak, the certain shaped head, the size of their body, the length of their wingspan. It's common among the kingfisher species. They hunt similar prey. They have very similar behaviour, but there are so many different colours. There are so many. In Australia, they're very brown and white, but you go to other places where the kingfisher species is prevalent, they've got some beautiful blues, reds, oranges in their plumage and in their beak. It's a very diverse species, and that's just the kingfisher species.
How many different birds do you know so far, names that we can call native birds?
To Australia?
To Australia, yeah.
Oh.
So far what you know, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I've never actually sat down and tried to count them, how many different species there are.
Isn't it?
Yes, there are. There are quite a lot, and they vary very diversely in size. They start from very small to quite large. Like you look at the emu as a species, and as we've all seen, the ostrich and the emu, well, they're related.
So what Australian they do, when I say Australian, I can talk about government and everyone that is Australian like we are. What can we do to, is it possible for us to keep those birds together and have them for us, like, because it's hard to control them because they go everywhere, the bird can migrate. What is the plan, like, why you can advise, like, what do you think that those birds we can keep them here with us? What we need to do for us to keep them?
Through the process of evolution, the birds have found a food source. And it's through diversity that they find what's that word? Nourishing. They have found a nourishing resource of food. It might be worms, it might be a flower off a tree, it might be a fruit. And certain fruits, where they become reliant on that fruit to feed, they will travel to
different parts.
Yeah, depending on the fruits that they have found to eat, or the flowers that they have found to feed from, or the vegetables that they have found to feed on. It really depends. The season, there are different fruits and vegetables that they will feed on. Here in Australia, when you grow tomatoes, they get attacked. But the birds that actually eat the tomatoes are not basically a native species. Well, if you look at a cockatoo, the sulphur-crested cockatoo, the white plumage, the white plumage, the white feathers, and the yellow crest at the top, the ones that you can teach to speak. They're more nuts and hard food. They will eat from the earth. They will eat from the earth. They will look for roots, for moisture and nourishment. But then when the other fruit and nuts are abundant, depending on the tree, the species of the tree, they will flock to those trees and they will engorge themselves until basically they can't fly.
Yeah.
They will eat so much, because there's only a short time span where that food is ripe.
But what can we do to protect those native animals? You know, Australia is a big country where we have 200 countries together.
Okay.
People came like myself. We have to know how to protect the nature, how to protect those animals.
That's an easy question to answer, because native birds rely on native plants.
Also, they will shift to plants.
Plants and the vegetation, the fruits, the nuts, and all the native vegetation. They've evolved in a way that they know where to go to find their food source. So to protect them, we have to keep the native trees, plants, and the fruits, and everything that's native to the area, even though they can fly, you know, hundreds of kilometres to go to the next food source, we have to keep that environment as it is. We have to leave it untouched. We can't keep mowing it down for capitalism.
So different reason, like
profit, capitalism.
Yeah, mining.
All that sort of stuff, because once you you can find birds in Australia.
Houses also at the same
That's right.
time.
Yes.
Industry or
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. Industry. But you can go to certain areas of Australia, and it might only be a 10 kilometre square of land, but there's one species of bird that lives there, and you won't find them anywhere else.
Oh, yeah.
Because they've evolved to live in that environment which supplies them with all the food that they need. But once you knock down that 10 square kilometres of trees,
That's it, they're gone.
that's it, they're extinct.
Do you think it's important to keep them? I don't know, it sounds like a stupid question.
No, there is never a stupid question, only stupid answers. Yeah? All questions are intelligent, because the question is out of curiosity, not out of stupidity.
How important is those animals, like I said?
Of course, they're very important. It's the whole balance of nature. Once we disturb that balance of nature, we're going to end up in a lot of trouble, because, as we all know, the big fish eat the little fish, and if there was no little fish, there'd be no big fish.
I see. So what do you say, we have some cultures back then in Africa, or I think some Asian countries like Chinese, they do eat birds.
Yes.
And what do you advise them? You think it's fair to put bird on a fry nice bird and eat them?
Fantastic. They taste so good.
So when you say that, so you think
you have to. It's like with the whaling. It's like with, you know, how there are some countries that.
I know there'll be trouble between Japan and Australia.
We can't keep killing the whales to
feed ourselves.
Yeah, to feed ourselves. There are other food sources that we can use. It's not necessary. It's not part of our basic nutritional evolution to be eating whales. There are other fish that we can eat, and we have to have a replenishable source. And there's plenty of ways to farm fish.
Ah, you can farm fish too, yeah?
Of course. You farm fish, you've got fresh fish.
So it's not. It is advisable to keep them in cage and all stuff.
They're not so much. They're not so much in cages. They're in big ponds or in nets. Yeah, and they're fed by humans. They're farmed. They're properly farmed.
Do you have any in Victoria or Australia?
Fish farms?
So far, you know, yeah.
Oh, of course. Yeah, they're all over the place. You only got to drive maybe for an hour, and then you'll come across one here, one there, one here, one there. Depends on what sort of fish. You want freshwater trout?
But we can't do it with birds anyway.
What we have to do with birds is protect the environment that they live in. If there's, as I said before, if there's a certain territory that they live in, a certain environment, we have to protect that environment. Because there might only be one species of bird that lives in that 10 kilometre square. We can't just keep destroying the environment for capitalism. Because basically that's what it's all about. They wouldn't destroy it if there was no money involved.
Ah, okay. I think today we have Scott. Thank you for coming to our program. We're very happy and we're pleased to have you with all your schedule. That we take you just by surprise, and that was good. But I think we will talk more because this leads us to the history, Australian history. What can you say about this first time for you to be in Enews24 to our listeners today? What can be your last word for today? Never. I just say that they don't think this is the last word.
It's okay. Grouse, mate.
Yes, man. Yeah, we like that one. So, man, thank you very much for coming. And we'll
thank you for asking me.
Yeah, we'll be very happy to have you all the time because those knowledges, it's not only for me, it will be also for our kids because, look, we came here 10 years, 20 years, 24 years ago. We don't know what is what. So we can be maybe talking about this to know these trees, where these trees come from. And one stage will be showing those birds or those trees so that we can protect our environment because our environment is very vital for us. Thank you very much, Scott. And this was, thank you listeners for being with us always. Thank you for trusting this program of Enews24. We say to you, thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.